Hi, I'm Joy Baldridge, here to bring a little more joy to your world. And today's topic is about stress reduction. The goal is to reduce stress and increase happiness. Divorce your stress and gain happiness. So I'm going to be talking to you about some golden nuggets, useful ideas on how to do that. I like to start with your WAFs. WAF is an acronym, and it stands for worry, anxiety, and fear. Do you have any of those things? Do you have any worries, wandering worries, any anxiety that stresses you out, or any fears that make you feel uncomfortable or might even prevent you from taking positive action? So let's talk about remedies for those. First, you need to define them in order to conquer them. So WAF stands for worry, anxiety, and fear. And when it comes to worry, according to Psychology Today, 90% of what you worry about never even happens. So if you keep that statistic in mind, you may want to test that out throughout the day. I know on Bank Street, where I live, they seem to ticket quite often. And the tickets are pretty expensive. They're about $35. I was having lunch with a friend. I went to the restaurant. And when I got there, I realized that I didn't put money in the meter. And I thought, it's a long walk back. Let me just test my chances, because 90% of what you worry about never even happens. And sure enough, I got back to the car an hour later and no ticket. So it proved the theory. Keep it in mind as you start to feel the worry pangs in the day, and take a deep breath and ask yourself a question. What's going to really happen here? Is this really worth worrying about? So worry, 90% of what you worry about never even happens. So what you need to do is you need to cut the worry wires. Cut the worry wires. Give it a try. Cut the worry wires whenever you're feeling that worry pang. Now, the second word in WAF is anxiety. Anxiety, the definition I like best, I got from a psychologist, and she said that anxiety is nothing more than the horrible stories you tell yourself that are rarely, if ever, true. And think about the stories that you tell yourself, the things that you are thinking about that give you those anxiety pangs. If you keep in mind that 90% of what you worry about never even happens, and anxiety is nothing more than the horrible stories we tell ourselves that are rarely, if ever, true, then that brings us to the F in WAF, which is fear. There's a book, and it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. You can get the book and you can read it, or like me, I got the book, but I never read it because I got so much out of the title, I didn't have to. I mean, think about it. Feel the fear and do it anyway. It's brilliant. I really like that quote, so you may want to write that one down. Feel the fear and do it anyway, by Deborah Jeffries, is the author of the book. Also, when it comes to fear, there's a quote I like very much from Zig Ziglar, and you may want to write this one down too. So I'll say it 2 times because I find it quite powerful and helpful as you go throughout your day. Zig Ziglar said that fear is an acronym, and it can stand for one of 2 things. Fear can stand for fear everything and run, or face everything and rise. So it's up to you to decide. Fear stands for fear everything and run, or face everything and rise. So see how you want to attack that fear. So the good thing to do is to say goodbye to your WAFs, say so long, goodbye WAFs, goodbye fear, goodbye anxiety, and goodbye worry, and you'll find that you'll have a much better day and a much better life. This is all about life-changing tools that you can do in an instant. So if you like this portion of the program, why don't you click like or share with some of your friends, and let's keep going, because there's so many more golden nuggets that I have to share in the 20 minutes of joy this morning. The next is just the definition of what stress is, because if you don't know what stress is, it's very hard to deal with something that you can't really clearly define. So I believe strongly in clarity of thought and focused execution. So you get clarity of thought when you define what it really is to be stressed, because stress can be very difficult and very damaging to your day. To define stress, I looked at many sources. I Googled it, of course, and I went to certain sources, books, and different advisors, and I asked, what do you really define stress as being? And because I like my golden nuggets to be very clean, very simple, I take them down to the purest level so you can just instantly grab and go with these ideas. What I find is that demands is my favorite definition for the word stress, for what stress is. Stress equals demands. equals the demands that you place upon yourself and the demands that others place upon you. And there are physical demands, which is physical stress, and there are psychological demands. What are you saying when you talk to yourself? If you're being very hard on yourself, you're doing a lot of the psychological demands. And maybe others are saying things to you that are really getting you psychologically all stressed out. But then there's also that physical aspect to stress. And some stress is actually good, such as exercise. So if we talk about the demands that are in your day, the thing about stress that I learned from a friend of mine, Joanne, who is a nutritionist, she said that stress does horrible things to your mind and body. And when she was taking a course in stress, she found that that's exactly what her professor said. He was professor of human physiology. And the first day of class, he said to the entire class, I have to talk to you first about stress. And his quote was, stress does horrible things to your mind and body. Think about it. First you get stressed out, then you get burnt out, and then you get sick, right? Isn't that how it goes? And then you run out of sick days. I saw a bumper sticker and it said, ran out of sick days, tomorrow I'm calling him dead. And I saw another one that said, I feel so much better now that I've given up hope. But you can't do that. You can't give up hope. And so what can you do? That's really the question. What can you do? Well, yesterday we were talking about the deep breathing. So I definitely recommend that. The technique is called the 4-4-6, which is inhale for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And all my useful ideas go on the head of a pin. And this is the 4-4-6 breathing technique. 4-4-6 breathing technique. And when you're done with the 4-4-6, you know what you do next? You keep breathing. You do it again and you keep breathing because breathing is quite vital. The reason why, you know it's important to breathe, of course, to sustain life. And if you do yoga or if you've had any breathing meditations, you know that breathing is also good for centering and keeping your mind still. But what most people don't know are 6 words that I was told when I was writing a book about self-management, how to be a self-managed, successful person and prosper. My book is called The Fast Forward MBA. And in the book, chapter 10, I decided to call some experts to ask them about stress reduction. I know a lot about the subject, but I wanted to get some more good thinking on this topic, some fresh ideas. And so I was talking to a woman named Nina Mirror. And Nina has studied stress for decades. And I said, what's the most important technique, golden nugget, useful idea that I should put in this book regarding stress reduction? And she said, breathing. And I said, I don't want to talk about breathing in the book. This is a business book. This is a book for people who pretty much know breathing is important and it's kind of cliche. Plus, some people think of it as kind of touchy-feely, you know, kumbaya and all this kind of crunchy stuff. I said, so I don't really want to put breathing in the book. And then she looked at me perplexed and she said, Joy, she said, you have to put breathing in a chapter regarding stress reduction because it really is the foundation to stress reduction. And then she said 6 words that completely changed my thinking on the importance of breathing for stress reduction and to really live that happy life, to divorce stress and to marry happiness. And that would be that breathing is your most easily accessible yet most underutilized stress reducer. Those 6 words really made an impact on me. So I'll repeat them again. Breathing is your most easily accessible, you can do it anytime, easy access, yet most underutilized stress reducer. It's underutilized because you can do it anytime. Do the deep breathe, and yet we don't. So my recommendation is, in order to really reduce stress and be present, focused, have that clarity of thought and focused execution, is to embrace breathing like a ninja. Really do it all the time and perfect it like a master class, like a craft that you can continue to keep improving. So if you're walking to the elevator, if you're going in an elevator to a meeting, inhale, hold it, exhale. Stuck in traffic? No problem. Inhale, hold it, exhale. At home and you're doing the dishes and you don't want to, inhale, hold it, exhale. Children having temper tantrums, screaming, not wanting to go to bed. Do you have any children? You know what I'm talking about. And you inhale, hold it, exhale. Have it at the ready, the 4-4-6. Do it like a ninja. Now, in addition to deep breathing, it's vital to remember the houses. I created a concept, and it's called the houses of mad, glad, sad, and scared. So there are 4 core human emotions, and 3 of them rhyme. So they're mad, glad, sad, and scared. So I call them houses. So we have the house of mad, the house of glad, the house of sad, and the house of scared. So the question to ask yourself is, which house do you live in most, and is it time to move? That's the question. Which house do you live in most, and is it time to move? So you've got the house of mad, the house of glad, the house of sad, and the house of scared. Now, most people find themselves living in the wrong house. They find themselves living in the house of mad, sad, and scared. And very few people, when I have them really get in tune with themselves, find themselves living in the house of glad. Hey, Louise, you just got here. Louise, are you in the house of glad today?
Yes.
Yes, doesn't sound like it. You stressed out? You burnt out? You sick yet? We'll talk later. So we've got the house of mad, glad, sad, and scared. Which house do you live in most, and is it time to move? You bet it is, because I found myself a few years ago living in the house of scared, and I couldn't understand why, because I was raised by optimistic people in the house of glad, and I wondered what is going on. And then I realized I was spending way too much money, and it was just getting to be too much. The visa bills were getting really high, and lots of expenses that I didn't anticipate. Have you ever gone to the dentist and left with a few more appointments than you anticipated in the future, or maybe with the family as well? So things just kind of just started piling up. And I started to wake up scared, and I started to get nervous, and I found I was not breathing properly when that happened. Has that happened to you? You get shallow breathing, perhaps if you're under deadline. Most people tell me what stresses them out is usually family, marriage, money, deadlines, in-laws, which is part of the family. So what stresses you out? Because you can't really tackle something unless you know what stresses you out. And when you get stressed out and when you start getting burnt out, what house do you end up living in? Different people handle stress differently. So which house do you live in when you get really at your wit's end? I tend to default mostly to scared. And then from scared, I go to sad, because it's sad that I'm so scared. What do you do? Some people go straight to mad. They just live in the mad house. Do you know people who live in the mad house? They're mad about everything. Everything's awful. They're always screaming. They're big on the road rage when you're driving. You know, they get to the mad. Is that you? Hope not. Or do you go to the scared house where just everything makes you nervous and you're always living in this perpetual anxiety? But remember, anxiety is the horrible stories we tell ourselves that are rarely, if ever, true. What about the sad house? You know anybody who's in the sad house a lot? The sad house people, they talk like this. Oh my gosh, did you see the news? Did you hear that story? Oh, it's just so sad. I can't believe how sad it is. It's just so incredibly sad. Do you know people like this? They look for sad things to talk about because it just fuels and perpetuates dwelling. The dwelling on things makes you dwell in the house of sad, mad, glad, or scared. Well, I found that you have the capacity to move anytime you wish. So when I found myself in the house of scared, I just decided to move. I decided I was going to move, and I was going to go back to the house of glad. But my father said the house of glad comes with a warning. I said, wait, what do you mean? He said, well, your philosophy is very good. To have the houses and to help people understand where they are so they are not as stressed out, that's really useful. And I would definitely keep that. But you must warn them about what happens when you live in the house of glad. And I said, well, what happens? And he said, you have to be so careful, because the warning is if you live in the house of glad and you're happy all the time, people can't take it. They just want to slap you. They're like, why are you so happy? Why are you such a good life? You know? Oh, yeah. Like, are you drinking again? Are you taking some drugs? Or do you need to adjust your medication? No one can be that happy. And you think to yourself, gosh, you know, I just got to a state where I'm feeling positive and things are really good. And now I'm getting this negative feedback from it. So the answer to that is to know To live in the house of glad takes just as much work as it does to live in all the other houses. You still have to pull the weeds and you have to fix the roof because it will leak and things will go wrong. And to be human, you're going to visit all the houses every day. In your day, you will experience being mad and sad and scared and glad. The key is whenever you're in one of the houses that you don't care for and you're just visiting, go back home, go back to glad, readjust, regroup, reset your navigation, and get back to glad. Now, how do you get back to glad? Some people say it's not that easy. Well, the key is, first of all, you want to live in degrees. So degrees of happiness. You don't want to be over the top euphoric because that could be perceived as obnoxious. You want to just have this calm delight about you, just knowing that all is well. And all is well is such a powerful concept that I decided to even make a golden nugget out of it. So all is well. People who live in the house of glad, they pay their rent every day. You have to pay your rent to live in a house. So to pay your rent every day, RENT is an acronym that stands for rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts. So to live in the house of glad, you have to pay your rent every day. Pay your rent every day, live in the house of glad. So rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts is what you need to monitor. So think about your own rent to live in the house of glad. Which is best for you? Does rest work for you to combat stress? Think about it. When you don't have enough sleep, do you feel kind of stressed out? Do you feel like you're in a house you don't belong in? I know I do. I need rest. So in order to get a restful experience, you can take a deep breath. That can rest you. And you can also do something called a purple break. I'm going to spend a brief amount of time on a purple break today, but I'm going to give you a full purple break tomorrow. So be sure to come tomorrow and be sure to like and share too and have your friends come. So a purple break is based on the concept that you have a pigment in your eye called rhodopsin. Oh, we have some people joining us. They're going to do the purple break too. Tina, good morning from Santa Barbara, and Louise. Oh, Louise, thanks for joining us. And we have Cliff and we have John. So thanks for joining this morning. And we're going to, just in time for the purple break. In your eye, you have a pigment. It's called rhodopsin. Rhodopsin is also known as visual purple. And it breaks down in bright light like fluorescent light and sunlight, and it's restored in total darkness. But you're never in a totally dark environment. So if you just create a dark environment, relax and breathe by covering your eyes and taking a deep breath. You can do it with me if you like. That's a purple break. But we're going to do more on the purple break tomorrow because we only have 2 more minutes to the 20 minutes of joy this morning. So purple break is covering your eyes, relaxing and breathing just for a minute or 2. Now, once you do that, it's going to reset and help you to be in the house of glad because it helps take care of the R in rent, the rest portion. So we've got rent to pay to live in the house of glad, rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts. The next one is the E. What does E stand for? Yes, exercise. Exercise, keep moving. We think we have to join the gym and do some elaborate CrossFit or go running every day or really do like the Ironman races or do something kind of superhuman. We tend to buy all the apparatus for the exercise, and then I find that a lot of people don't actually do it. So don't just join the gym. Just go outside and walk. Park the car far away when you drive anywhere, so you have to take a longer walk to where you're going. Give yourself enough time for that longer walk. And, of course, take the stairs. I remember years ago I was in Weight Watchers, and when I took the stairs, I was able to watch the pounds melt away in addition to doing good things with nutrition, which is the N in rent. So rent, rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts. What are you eating? What do you have handy? Do you have handy M&Ms? Do you have handy candy? Do you have handy Snickers bar? Just because a Snickers bar has peanuts in it doesn't mean it's good for you. So I like to keep handy things like grapes and nuts and raisins. And my friend Joanne, she said if you mix a protein with a fruit, it creates an enzyme that's very nutritious. Also, there's something called the reverse diet. And the reverse diet is when you eat dinner for breakfast. That takes some getting used to, because I was eating like filet of sole for breakfast. It was a little awkward at first, but it really does work because it gives you that protein. And the protein is like a log, and it kind of holds all your energy for a long, sustained period of time, as opposed to carbs like pancakes or English muffin, which kind of just zip goes. It's sort of like putting paper on the fire, gives you a little charge, and then it's over. So keep in mind the nutrition. And then finally, your thoughts. What are you thinking when you think all day long? What do you say when you talk to yourself? One of my favorite things to say when I talk to myself is, all is well, all is well, all is perfectly well, and unfolding as it should. Please like and share this live Facebook chat. And it's time to go. It's 20 minutes of joy. See you tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks for coming. Bye. Oh no, where's my finish button? You see it? My mouse isn't working. Oh, will I get those down? No, because I live in the house of glad. My mouse pad is hold on. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to finish, but there it is. All is well, all is well, all is perfectly well, and unfolding as it will.